Hey everyone, welcome to today's session. This workshop is brought to you by our mentor friends. The idea is simple. We want students to learn from people who are actually working in the industry and understand how things work in the real world. Today's session is all about something a lot of people struggle with, getting the idea, the right output from the AI. We will break down how to think and write better prompts so you can actually get useful results. Now, let me introduce our speaker for today. We have with us Yugal Kishore. He is the CEO and co-founder of Civilto AI and has over 16 plus years of experience across AI, fintech, and consulting. He has also led product and strategy at Ognorth. Today, he will help you understand how actually use AI to better through smart prompting. With that, I will hand it over to you, Yugal.
Thank you so much, Bhumika. And hi, everyone. Yugal this side. Bhumika has already given a kind intro. All right. So AI isn't as much about, how good or bad the AI technology is itself, how the LLMs are itself, or have they evolved to AGI or not, as it is about how well can you interact with AI. Now, with that in mind, I have a quick question for all of you, which I think you can answer. So, do you guys know how to use Menti? So you can just go to menti.com, put in this code, or just scan a QR and answer this question. What's the one word that describes your last frustrating AI experience?
Veer Shakti has wrote killing jobs.
Killing jobs. Okay. Well, that again is a myth, my friend. I don't think AI necessarily kills jobs, but dissent is welcome. That is how we grow. For of 10, let's see what's coming through. Okay. Repeating prompt generic and appropriate result. I think if okay, then we says somebody said irrelevant. Okay, that's a new cloud word. Similar outputs. Repetitive seems to be gaining ground here. Okay, let's go back to this. So for those of you who said that the problem is repetitive, do you mind like diving into that for like 5 seconds? Either type on the chat or like unmute yourself and say what do you mean as repetitive? Because what we have normally experienced and what AI and well overall artificial general intelligence is trying to do is to have a very consistent output from one question to the other. So when some of you said repetitive is your problem, I would be keen to double click and understand what does that mean very quickly, either in a comment or unmute yourself. No? Okay, no worries. I guess repetitive comes in from giving it a weak prompt. So, as an example, if you give, and somebody said generic and vague as well, irrelevant, when you just write something like, write me a cold email for my startup, of course, AI is going to go and, find the most common response and share it with you. And that would probably happen with all, how many are we? 20 now? Yeah, 20 odd of us if we write the same thing. But if you write a very structured prompt, which is, why do you want that email written? What is the role? What is the output you're expecting? Are there any boundaries you want to set? And you give an example, then you would get a completely different answer. So, why AI disappoints? I think a lot of people said, other than taking jobs, which is debatable. First, your prompts have not really a purpose. Now, people think using AI is just like writing a Google search or a Bing search. No, it's not. You need to give it a purpose. There is no role given. If you do not ask an AI to assume any role or take any role that helps get you a better answer, it would just go to a generic default, which is like comparable to, I don't know, like asking your accountant about the best technology course to take in AI. The accountant would be like, sorry, why are you asking me? Next, no shape. You need a format, right? You can't just ask something and be like, okay, give me an email and expect AI to give you the right email. It would give you a foggy blob. And that is what happens. So the framework is called Probe. Probe comes from Socrates. I'm not trying to teach history. I know even I used to be horrible at history, but Socrates was a great philosopher who used to essentially present philosophy concepts in the format of probes, which is like, okay, you probe people, you try and understand, you try and explain what you're doing. So it's rooted in inquiry, but it's built for AI. That's probe. So every time you want to write a prompt for AI, you should be like, P purpose. Why are you asking this? What will you do with this answer? That is super crucial because unless you give set a direction as to what you're expecting as an output, you will always get those generic, irrelevant, repetitive output that we saw on the word cloud. Role, who should be AI right now? Give it expertise. I think this is something I have actually seen a lot of individuals who use AI miss, which is like ask AI to take a role. And that is actually the power of AI, right? Like you can ask AI to assume the role of, let's assume some of you are trying to, I don't know, trying to get into a consulting role at a big three and say, then you should probably be asking, hey, can you answer what sort of frameworks I should be studying for the role of a associate consultant at Bain, assuming the role that you are the partner of that division in Bain. So that role gives it a completely different bent. Then output. What should be the answer looking like? Format, tone, length. Like this can range from asking for I need an essay, but I need an essay of 500 words. I need an email, but I need a short, crisp prompt email. I need a informal email, formal email. I need something for my research thesis, which has to be very, very well enunciated, something that should have all the right word, length, tone, format. You can completely define the output. Like, I'm sure a lot of, well, I haven't, I don't use all of those image generation, but when you do image generation also with AI, you ask these questions that you need something to look like X. So do that. Then boundary again, super crucial. What should the response avoid? Any assumptions and limits? And that can mean the example of, let's say, you are preparing for a role at Bain. You could be, yeah, avoid anything that the competition would use, or avoid anything that would make it sound, my response sound like a KPO. That's a boundary. And last is example. Example, I would say, comes with more practice, with more thinking yourself, but then you can say that, okay, yes, I need an answer, but here's what I think is an example of a good answer or a good output that I would have. So that is where the framework comes in. Probe your purpose, your role, the output expected, the boundary you want to set, and the example. Now let's do another sort of survey. Okay, this one is again same. Go to menti.com or scan this QR and you need to answer how confident you are at prompting AI right now. Whoa, I see a lot of pretty solid in getting there, but that's just 2 out of 15. P says just starting. P, you're just starting and you already hate AI because you say it's taking and killing jobs. All right, going back to the presentation. Now that we know a prompt, okay, let's do this. Let's construct a prompt live. Now for this one, I would actually ask all of you to like, what is the one sort of question that you would want answered using the probe framework from AI? If you can type that in the chat or comments, then I can actually do it live with you. If not, then of course I have something prepared that I can show you. But yeah, algo. So you want me to ask about algovir? See, think of it from this lens. Like, what's the purpose? What do you want to ask AI about? Okay, let me do one myself. Perplexity is one of the tool I like to use. And if I go to my notes, I have something already set up, which should be coming up. So, okay, here's an example. So, let's say first we write, I mean, I'm assuming some of us are younger than the ancient me and, are still going through college or some formal education. So, let's say we write an essay about climate change. Okay, so see, even AI is right now going back at you and asking, how would you like it to be? Now, if you change the prompt and say this purpose, you're a second year college student writing a 500-word argumentative essay. Act, who's the role? Act as an experienced academic writing coach, write a compelling introduction, three key arguments. What are the boundaries you're setting? Use simple language, no jargon, and format it as intro plus three short paragraphs with headers. Let's see what turns up now. And now let's look at the difference. The first response looks like, somebody just went as an algo in NLP, crawled every news available and summarized stuff. But now you see more structure to it. Small actions add up. Individual influence system. Habit shape the future. So this is, and again, now it's again gonna, if you ask smart questions to AI, it would itself give you better prompt intent, which is like, would you like me to turn this into a 500-word essay with the conclusion as well? Depends on you if you want it or you don't. Prompt to compare resume with JD or output a match score with actionable gap. Okay, let's do this. So you wanted to do this. Let's say, uh, and bear with me, I told you I'm horribly slow with writing. I want to compare my resume with JD for this is the purpose for better understanding my fit within the role and organization. Assume you are a hiring lead for, I don't know, let's say Flow Palette. That's my company. By Sweldo. Yeah, PROB. And then I expect output to be concise and you set a score, math score with actionable gaps, boundaries. Do not assume any experience with the organization. Example, use something like uh, score matching algo and real insights that we have in cricket and IPL. Now, I would of course have to give it a CV. Do you guys mind like also dropping in a random CV so that we can do this prompt much better because we have this and we have a JD. Or do you want me to just go and create one? Okay, let's do this. Create a CV for tech backend. Let me just paste this thing. And I'll go back. CV below.
Yugal, am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
So I just have one question. Like whenever you're
Mm-hmm.
writing a prompt, so you get
Mm-hmm.
a lot of instructions, like what you have to do. So
Yeah.
you prioritize instructions, like like what do we have to write first? Like
Mm-hmm.
you give a lot of instructions. So how can you prioritize instructions while giving a prompt?
Yes, you can. So the instruction priority is actually in the same order as the Pro framework, which is first thing that you need to give is the purpose, if that is your question, then the role, or are you asking something else?
No, no, I was asking just that because like whenever I write a prompt, I have to give 10 to 15 instructions, like do it in this
Yeah.
way. So like how can I prioritize so I can get a better output basically?
Yeah, exactly. So the first thing you should do is always give the purpose. Like, even if your purpose entails, I don't know, five, six, seven, 10 lines, like say this is the purpose, and then go into what sort of role that you want the AI to answer it as.
Okay, good.
Okay, since you guys asked me this, okay, so yeah, you look like a strong technical fit for a backend role at Flow Pilot with the main gaps likely around domain context, workflow automation, ops, terms. Below, I'll treat this like an IPL style run rate match analysis, what's already scoring, where you're behind. I mentioned JD needs, what your CV shows, match high, match low, and then these are the things they would prioritize. So it's like actually done it in IPL style if you think about it. Power play, that's where you're good at. Middle overs, product domains, death overs, ownership. So there you go. And there is actionable gap fixing plays. This answer, I mean, I'm glad that you asked this question. This was asked by Mehul, yeah. So yeah, Mehul, that's your actionable analysis on how to better prompt and get a very neat, concise output from an AI. In fact, I
Oh,
mean, for fun, I added IPL. Sorry, you were saying something.
no, no, got it, got it.
Yeah, awesome. So this is what we did with constructing prompt live. Then next up, the right tools to ask. Now this is also like massively debatable. I mean, I know this is getting recording, but I'll still say it, even though I have a company to run and I might get into trouble. But I would actually not use ChatGPT for anything. Yes, it can be used as basic starting point. Claude is amazing if you want to get into, like, let's say tech, coding, backend, front end, all of those technology software stuff, like strategy memos. Perplexity is amazing with anything that has got to do with more research and fact finding. Finance, I would say Claude and Gemini are equally well stacked in terms of finance feed. And then for yeah, Perplexity is amazing for fact finding, citations, and even like persona analysis, which we'll get into, some other sessions if you guys don't find me someone who's boring you to death. And Gemini is actually amazing for anytime you want live information analysis, which is why I said for finance, Gemini is as well stacked as Claude because both of them have access to a lot of already well made agents that plug into live data and analysis, and that is what you need for finance. Alrighty, now that we have had a bit of understanding of the probe framework, and by the way, I just created it for you guys, so this isn't something you will go and find somewhere else. Probe is something that is used in diagnostics and a lot of other fields, not yet popularized in the AI parlance. So yeah, let's fill this. And now what do you guys think is the number one mistake people make when prompting AI? Same format, go to menti.com, fill in the code, and yeah, click your responses. Three, okay, too vague, 50%. Too long, very interesting. And before I take a read into it, did the individual who said too long mind giving us some insights into what do they mean as too long? Because a lot of people think, and I think one of you asked this earlier, that you have context which is like, I don't know, 10 to 12 lines long. So too long isn't necessarily a problem. If you think that is a problem, then I think you're not looking at the right solution, which is structuring it better, because prompts can be as long as possible as long as they have a structure. By the way, quick check. Have any of you ever faced a situation where you gave any AI a prompt and the answer was, this is too much context or too long? Has that happened with anyone? No? Oh, did? No, yeah, no one. Okay. Well, I asked because it happened with me on Gemini yesterday itself. Gemini said, timed out, you've given me a freaking essay to run. So, yeah. Oh, by the way, can I say freaking? I mean, it's fine. Okay. It happens with DeepSeek. Oh, yes. DeepSeek is DeepSeek is a phenomena that happened, and I mean that's a whole different discussion in a webinar. But I am actually super happy that we are following DeepSeek in this group. All right, Probe works for everyone here. Whether you're a student, you're an entrepreneur like me, you're creators, you're researchers, it would work for anything that you do. And one other thing I want to highlight here is you don't need a paid tool to get better results from prompting from AI. I think it's a massive myth. It's a myth that perhaps a lot of very smart marketers at all of these AI companies are selling, where they say, oh, why don't you buy Perplexity Pro? Why don't you buy Claude's premium subscription? Why don't you get Gemini Super Ultra Pro? Your answer would still be very much dependent on how you prompt or you ask the question. It's like working in a group in school or working in a company somewhere and with your peers. No matter how good your peer or your group is, if you can't give them right context, you will not get the right answer. Whether you pick someone with an IQ of 50 or 150, that doesn't change. The same is what works with all of these AI tools. So do not go away from this and immediately say, oh, let me buy the next paid subscription of Perplexity or Gemini or Claude or
Yugal,
ChatGPT. Yeah.
I have a question. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, most of the work I do it on Claude in Office, Claude or ChatGPT. So I have to upload some
Mm-hmm.
documents, like
Mm-hmm.
some professional document that I have to upload. So how safe is this to upload the documents in any app like Claude or ChatGPT? Is there any possibility of getting data leaked?
Amazing question. That is something that a lot of people overlook actually. The thumb rule is until and unless you have checked a button, which is available on Perplexity and Claude for sure, where you say, do not use my data for training, they are bound by their agreement with you not to share it. But it's like that end user agreement, that all of us while playing games or anything downloading on mobile, we just say accept, right? So a lot of people forget about it. So if you are not checking or opting in for that option that do not use my data for training, your data is getting used by all the LLMs behind these front end models to train themselves. So yeah, it
Okay,
is not necessarily safe.
okay.
In fact, that is the biggest source of, and I'm going into controversies, but it's fine. That's the biggest source of all of these AI models getting better, right? Because people just assume that, hey, it's an AI, I'm just uploading something, and yeah, no, that would get broken down depending on what kind of matrix multiplication or vectors they're using, and it would be thousand other LLMs would be trained on it. I have more questions coming in. So how to do VRI? So yeah, Veer, you need to check uh, which one do you use actually? Do you use ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity? Claude. Claude, you need to go and search. In fact, that's a good homework for you. Why don't you use the probe method and ask Claude itself, where do I turn off my data sharing with you? and it will give you an answer. And then you can turn that off. It's a toggle normally under settings and privacy and data privacy in all of these models. So you can turn that off. For those of you who are working in organizations, by default, all the organizations buy licenses that do not share any data outside the organization. By that, I mean, if you're working in, let's say, Venture Edu or Swelto, Flowpilot, or Bain, BCG, or I don't know, Oak North, or any company, if your company are using it for stocks, oh, that means you're uploading your personal data with there. Okay. That is not the smartest thing to do, by the way. Hmm. So if you're using it within an organization, then that data is only used to train the AI that your organization is using. That would not be sent outside your organization. So if I'm not working in Venture Edu and someone is using Venture Edu uploading stuff, I can't access the models trained on that. But as an individual, we need to be very careful about uploading stuff. But will it affect my answer as well? As it will it be less customized for me? It will affect your answer too, actually. It will be less customized for you. But there are ways around it, Manvinder, which is like, so, and even if I take like and making models. So, okay, let me combine Veer and Manvinder's answers into one questions into one answer. So the way around it is if you still want to upload stuff, you can strip it off your personal information, which is, let's say, Manvinder, in your case, you can be like, instead of saying, okay, I want to do this sort of content marketing creation for my cohort based in, I don't know, NCR, like anonymize it, say, okay, I want to do it for cohort in a metro tier one and just take some other name. Then you would still get the same impact without sharing your personal data. Then similarly for UV, if you're using it to make models and analyzing stocks, you can give random analysis of what was your return on it instead of like sharing your actual portfolio and what was the return on it. You can say, okay, here's a dummy model that I wanted to run for, I don't know, Nifty tech index for the last 5 years, and somebody wants to look at it. So yeah, give it that. But never share like your actual named answers with AI models as prompts. That is what I would suggest.
So I have a question, Yugal.
Mhm.
So suppose if I'm making an AI agent, like
Mhm.
whenever in N8N or Make or Zapier and all. So
Mhm.
basically you have to integrate it with API, any API, Cloud API or Open API, because like to do the analysis. So if I doesn't have to pay for the API, can I integrate Olama? Will it be able to handle the same, like,
Precisely. Yeah. It can. It can actually, and that's a very good thought. You can actually. So you don't need to. And this opens like, and I love how this discussion is evolving, but we're
Hmm.
moving from prompting to free agents and LLMs. Dude, like there are tons of free LLMs available which can actually run on your systems itself. And I mean like on your laptops. They don't need those giga terabytes of processing GPUs.
No,
Like
because actually, I've tried Olama. I've tried using Olama before. Like it is very slow, and the output is not that good, and it's very slow.
Mhm.
Whenever I try to integrate Olama in N8N agent,
Did you
that I
Anyten, first of all, is not really an agent. Anyten is an interface that helps you plug in different LLMs and
hmm,
essentially bring a UI or an interface to it. Now,
hmm,
Llama is one example, but then you can look at like all of the free models. Microsoft released some very cool free models that you can download on your system yourself and run it. Claude has a version that you can run locally on your system and work on it. That would have
hmm,
two impacts. A, you won't have to worry about your data going anywhere because it's running on your system in your walled interface. You can upload
hmm,
whatever you want to. It won't go
hmm.
anywhere. And the speeds have massively increased actually. We're going slightly technical, but I'll still go. The context size now like has reduced massively. In fact, there are ways you can skim down the markdown files and then still run it on local CPUs. So try with the new ones and you will be happy with what you get as an output.
Okay, got it.
And the next one is the self critique loop. Now, I'm sure like this is also something that A lot of people use it. Do you guys like ever ask AI something and ask it to critique itself? Show of hands on the chat. Oh, yes. Perfect. Let's try and do it with the response that we had here. Okay. Why don't you critique your response? Make it better. Also, what needs to change? See, what was good but underused? What was weak or missing? Insufficient critique of the CV itself. What would you change in the structure? There you go, a rewritten better answer. So this is something you should always do. I recommend on something that you feel is very crucial and important. You're asking AI, because if you ask it to critique itself, again, that same reinforcing data sharing loop running, now that it understands where you're coming from, it's gonna go in the back and pick up responses from other similar people, anonymize it, and improve your response. So critique is something you should always run every time you get an output, even after a probe. And then, yeah, of course, it can ask you to either repurpose the framework or rewrite your summary. All right, some advanced moves, chain prompting. Like the creating is almost like some sort of example of chain prompting where, we used output of one prompt as an input of another prompt. Then there is persona stacking, which is you write multiple experts. And I think, I'm not sure who asked Mehul, you asked or someone else asked that when you want to prioritize a lot of context that you want to give, you can try persona stacking, which is what would be the persona or the role that matters the most in that response. Like if you're doing something for, I don't know, your management, you could say, okay, I need the chief marketing officer's response to be more valuable. So probably stack that at the top to assess the same idea. Few short examples is, give two examples and ask for a third in the same style. And constraint magic. Fewer choices often produce better, sharper outputs. It's again a myth that a lot of people propagate that if you constrain an LLM or an AI too much, you won't get better output. Nah, throw that down the drain. The more boundaries you can draw, the better output you would give. And then, yeah, here's a 30-second audit every time you want to hit enter. Have I started and stated with what I'll do with the answer? Have I given AI a role or expert identity? Have I specified the format, length, and tone? Have I named what it should avoid? Can I provide one useful example? This is like a 30-second checklist every time you're trying to run something with AI as a prompt. Why this matters? Prompting is a compounding skill. The more you do, the better you get at it. With this structure, you'll probably get 3 times better output. Just do it like 60 minutes saved daily for strong AI users. And yeah, it's one skill that improves every tool you use, whether it's making something in Figma, Make, or it's if you're an engineer, you're sitting on the co-pilots in GitHub, or if you're using any of the local LLM models. Awesome. So now you can probe. One sort of request if today you can pick one repetitive task, write a probe prompt, run it, screenshot it, and share it and tag maybe myself and mentor sprints if you want to. And that brings me to the end of my presentation and session. Any questions? Can you please share an example of persona mapping for better result? Is there any specific question you want me to, like, task you want me to do for this, Bhumika? If not, then let's try this. I want to create local machine run LLM based model to connect with N8N. I'm partly answering your question to her, Mehul. For what would you use N8N for, Mehul? What kind of data do you want to analyze?
So basically, whenever a Zoom meeting ends, we get a transcript. So basically, I try to create an agent where just feed the transcript, so everyone in the team will get their action, like what they
Oh,
have to do next to
okay.
the yeah.
So for generating action items from Zoom experts. Okay, this is now let's start the role. Assume you are an experienced agent, engineer, and also the second lens is of a great UI dev, and then third lens is the eventual user of actions on that script. So now we're done with what? P, R. Let me know what are we missing so that we get a sense of are we learning something? Role we have done, output, right? Let's think of the output. Output should be recommended free LLM on my screen on my laptop with speed and the ideal setup of tech infra. P boundary. Assume I have no access to GPUs or money to pay likes of Claude. Example, use something free yet fast from Hugging Face. All right, Bhumika. So this is the answer, and Mehul, this is partly also answering your question. So what persona stacking did was actually ran all checks for me, which is what should I do as an agent engineer with enough experience? What sort of backend and architecture should I create? Then my interface in terms of UI, and then how should the user see it? So yeah. If prompts are the new programming language, what is the equivalent of Hello World in your playbook? I think I call it Pixie. I have a Weird nickname for Perplexity. I've been using it sort of before it went live in production. So yeah.
Yugal, can you please show me the prompt that you wrote?
Oh yeah, sure. That's my prompt.
Okay, so basically in this prompt, like I think you have assigned multiple roles, like
Yes,
so
persona stacking. This is
so
persona stacking. Yeah.
yeah, so basically how will you like ensure that model does not mix perspectives of all, like what I'm trying to say is, like if we are giving him multiple roles, like you are an
Mm-hmm.
engineer or you UI development user, so
Mm-hmm.
basically it doesn't mix perspectives, so it should be, I think, structured, na? Matlab, how can I explain this?
No, 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 you're asking the right question. But this is the structure, right? See, from what you told me, I understood your problem was that it was running slow. So which is why I said the first thing is you assume you're an experienced agent engineer. Then the second lens is a great UI, and the third one is eventual users. So, and then I said output should be recommended free LLM on my laptop with speed and the ideal setup of tech infra. Now, if you combine this with this, the
Hmm.
AI at the backend assumes that the first thing that they need to be ensuring is speed, laptop configuration, and ideal tech infra. So this persona, the first one, becomes the first priority. The second lens is the UI where it gives, and the third is the eventual user action. So the answer then again is based on this. My
Okay.
top recommendation is 3B class instruct model in GGUF, not larger than this because you said no GPU and you want speed on laptop. And then the priority order, then the ideal stack, and then you would see,
Okay, so
yeah.
according to you, is it better to like do all that in one prompt, or we should try a chain of prompt method, like one per role?
No, if you want a quick and efficient answer upfront, like what I would do is if you were actually wanting to use this prompt and get to an answer for your problem, you would first run this and then run a chain of prompt. Then say, okay, I understand your recommendation for this one, but my problem is, as you said, that Olama is perhaps slow. Maybe it's not with this, but okay, just Olama is slow. Then you can write the chain. But if you give a bigger prompt with better context upfront with all of these parameters, then you get a right sourcing answer, and then you can try chain prompting. If you do individual, I think it would be confusing for you to then go back and ask, okay, can you sum all three up? And that is where I think one of you said hallucinations happen. And I've tried it myself in the last like 3, 4 years that if I ask individual questions and then in this same thread I say, okay, now can you sum up? There's a higher chances of AI hallucinating and missing one of the persona responses. So you would rather give it in one prompt itself and then
Yeah,
derive there.
like so actually I've also built some chatbots here, like where I work in Claude or Gemini Gems.
Mm-hmm.
So if you try it first 1, 2 times, it gives very good output, but after 3, 4 times, it start giving me like fabricated output.
Yeah. I think someone asked me this question about agents, right? So that is unfortunately the problem with agents. Agents actually work very well in a very controlled, set, structured environment, which is like when you said the first 1 or 2 times, consider almost that like a demo or a prototype. But once you deploy it to bigger data, it's the integrations between the different kind of data that they're not able to handle. So agentic, someone asked at the beginning, is a good direction, a great direction. We are still far from mastering it, and that is not a problem that you and I can solve with better programming or better prompting. That is something that agents or agent engineers who are developing it need to solve first before we can use it. Um, Navya is asking whenever and ask any questions from it gives us half response according to a prompt, but the rest half answer still comes vague. Very interesting. Do you have an example of this, Navya? Do you see OpenClaw as a personal productivity tool or the foundation? Oof. Hmm. I mean, first I'll answer Christian's question. Actually, neither, to be honest. Enterprise scale autonomous agents definitely far off when it comes to OpenClaw. Uh, I think enterprise scale autonomous agents would have to go the JP Morgan way, wherein last year, and I think for a good part of last year, they had engineers from Palantir sitting with their team in their offices in New York and working with them to actually create agents that are now being used in some of the cross banking operations. So that is the way, at least I perceive, when you say enterprise, like the big wigs, like the listed companies going that way, not necessarily open claw. Personal productivity tool, maybe some people I know personally are exploring on it, but yeah, short answer. Foundation for autonomous enterprise? No, I think we are far from it. Not yet. Then do not remember exactly what word, but it is an and then phase because I was actually studying, but earlier half answer and later on started giving same. Yeah, so Navya, in that case, like what I would really appreciate is if you could like try that now with the probe approach and see if it still gives you the same answer. And I mean, once again, at the risk of pissing off the makers of ChatGPT, I think you should use ChatGPT less and maybe use Gemini more. Both are free, and I think Gemini just gives you better answers, or even Perplexity or Claude. I do hope you guys picked up something helpful and useful. I for sure enjoyed all the questions and interaction and discussion. So thanks a ton. Back to you, Bhumika.
Thank you, Yugal, for such a practical and insightful session. And thank you, everyone, for joining and being so engaged. If you guys allow me just 5 minutes, I would quickly like to tell you about Mentor Sprints, the initiative behind today's session, what we are building, and the problem we are trying to solve. Let me just quickly share my screen. So, if you look at this, it really sums up the current situation. Only about around 42% of the graduates are considered employable, and at the same time, there's a huge gap in AI and tech roles. A lot of students want to build something of their own, but very few actually reach that stage. And a big reason behind that is the most learning is still very theoretical with limited real world exposure. And this is the gap that we at Mental Strengths are trying to solve. It's an initiative by Venture Edu, where we are partnering with educational institutes to deliver industry relevant training and certification. We primarily focus on three areas, which is entrepreneurship, finance, and AI. And we are bringing in people from industry, whether it's founder, operators, or investors. Well, the idea is very simple: learn by doing. Whether it's validating a startup idea, understanding how finance actually works, or using AI tools effectively, like we saw today, everything is designed to be hands-on and practical. So what makes it different is how the people and the approach. These programs are designed and delivered by practitioners, people who have actually worked in the industry. So the focus is always on the real outcomes, what you can actually do after the session. So if you like the session today, you can simply help us reach out to your college and share your college details with us. Also, you can connect us with WhatsApp communities. We will be hosting such events in the near future, and you can be part of them. Thank you so much for today's session. I hope it was useful for you guys.
Awesome, thank you. Any feedback, please do pass on to Bhumika or Leah. Just drop me on LinkedIn. I would love the
Yeah.
feedback to improve. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Bye bye.